Hi, and welcome to Ryvis Rambles, where I talk about whatever the I want. In today's video, I want to talk about the One Piece live-action adaptation on Netflix. As always, I'll be talking about spoilers, so if you haven't watched the show yet and still want to, then just come back after you've watched it. But before I get into spoilers, I will share some spoiler-free details, and if you're only interested in my opinion, you can jump to this part. Just beware that it will contain spoilers. One Piece was the very first manga that I've ever owned. So like many other fans of the original, I was skeptical about this live-action adaptation. Why? Because the manga and anime adaptations I've seen so far, be it American or Asian, have been quite disappointing to me. Why? Because taken out of the anime and manga context, many of the characters and plots and skills and dialogues felt too cringy to me. If there are any live-action adaptations that you've enjoyed, then no judgment. You do you, but I personally didn't like it. And I kinda lost faith. I came to the conclusion that anime and mangas work because they can be as exaggerated as they want and it rarely feels silly. Depending on the story, it's epic, it's fun, it's deep, and considering how truly exaggerated and over-the-top One Piece can be, I had very little hope for the live action. But all of my friends who had seen it liked it, so I thought, alright, I'll just give it a try. And I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed it. Now before we get started, I have a small disclaimer or confession to make. While One Piece was the first manga I owned, I am not up to date with the current plot. I am still collecting the volumes, but I stopped reading after the Skypiea arc. Don't ask me why. I don't know why. I started it over and over again, but it's a lot. So I'm waiting for it to finish so I can watch or read it all in one go, which might be like in 80 years, but who cares? I'll be retired by then and have all the time in the world. But anyways, it's not relevant to the live action because it luckily only covers the first 10 or so volumes and I've read around 30 or so. One Piece is a show on Netflix adapted from the manga by Oda Eiichiro. It currently has one season with 8 episodes and each episode is around an hour long. It's about Monkey D. Luffy who wants to become king of the pirates. On his way to find the One Piece, the renowned treasure that gives the show its title, he makes friends with Zoro, Nami, Usopp and Sanji, who eventually become members of his crew. Together they have to fight other pirate crews, the 4 main villains of this season being, as far as I can remember, Alvida, Buggy, Kuro and... oh, Alan. Now on to the plot with spoilers. After Gold D. Rogers' epic execution, it starts with Luffy talking to the camera. And I was like, oh no, it's gonna be like that? But then it turns out he was just talking to a bird and I was like, oof. I mean, breaking the fourth wall can be cool, but in this case it was treading cringe territory and I was so relieved to see that it was just a false alarm. He then meets Koby on Alvida's ship and easily punches Alvida off her ship after he sees how she treats Koby, how badly she treats Koby. Together, Luffy and Koby head to Shellstown, which is a marine base, because for one, Koby wants to become a marine and Luffy supports that, and for another, because Luffy searches for a map to the Grand Line, which is supposed to be in the hands of Marine Captain X-Hand Morgan. It's where he also meets Zoro, a swordsman who uses 3 swords, and Nami, who we by then only know as his thief, but later becomes the crew's navigator. Since they're both exceptionally skilled, he wants them to join his crew, but they refuse. Yet, they keep working with him. They find the map, defeat Captain Morgan and bail, while Koby stays behind to become a marine. The first episode ends with a really good introduction of Buggy the Clown, in my opinion. Our not yet crew is caught by Buggy, who like everyone else wants the map to the Grand Line. Buggy tries to torture Luffy to no avail, while Koby starts his training as a marine cadet. Luffy, Nami and Zoro more or less easily defeat Buggy as well and continue their journey. In need of a ship, they end up in Syrup Village, where Luffy spots the Going Merry and immediately falls in love. Usopp, a notorious liar and storyteller, overhears the conversation and leads them to the ship's owner and his close friend Miskaya because Luffy doesn't have any money and wants to properly ask her for the ship instead of stealing it. Miskaya has a servant, Kuro, who tries to get rid of her to inherit her wealth. However, Luffy and Co aren't that easily deceived, so they finish him off to save Kaya, who gradually was poisoned by him, and move on. Usopp becomes part of the crew, and Kaya gives the Going Merry to Luffy. After fending off an attack by the Marine, Luffy navigates the gang to an ocean-going restaurant, the Barati, where they meet the chefs Sanji and Zeph. Meanwhile, Wise Admiral Garp hires one of the 7 warlords, Mihawk, to catch Luffy, who is already known as the Straw Hat Pirate. Since they don't have any money to pay for the food and drinks, Luffy has to pay off their debt as a dishwasher, while Zoro fights and loses against Mihawk. As they wait for Zoro's wound to recover, the fishman, Arlong and his gang, attack the Baratier because they're also looking for Luffy because they're also interested in the map to the Grand Line. Of course, the Straw Hat gang tries to protect the Baratier and fight the fishmen, but they stand no chance. Nami then tells Arlong that she's got the map and she leaves with him. The rest of the crew, together with Sanji, who is now also part of the gang, follow her to Koko Village, where they learn about her past and help her defeat Arlong. And the Straw Hat gang finally becomes an official crew. Luffy also offends Marine Captain Nezumi, who was working with Arlong and as an act of revenge, declares a bounty on Luffy's head, making him an officially wanted pirate. And Luffy's more than pleased to hear about this. And that's basically how the show ends. Throughout the show, there are flashbacks to the main cast's past, where we learn the reasons for their dreams and goals. Luffy always dreamt of becoming a pirate and joining Shanks' crew when he was a kid. Zoro wants to become the greatest swordsman because he made a promise with a friend. Nami wants to draw a map of the world. Usopp strives to become a great pirate like his dad. And Sanji wants to fight the All Blue and become the best cook. Of all these flashbacks, Sanji's hit me the most. Even though Sanji is one of my least favorite characters in every adaptation so far, his past had me in tears. I mean, of course I already knew what was going to happen, but somehow it was more intense in the show. Granted, I haven't seen the anime yet, so it might just be more intense on screen in general. Overall, I have very little criticism of the show. The dialogue was, for example, still kinda cringe at some points because the show takes itself a little too seriously at times, but it's okay. It's forgivable. I mean, I also had a few good one-liners. For example, another thing I don't like about the live-action version is the romance between Usopp and Kaya. I mean, the two are cute together. They have a certain chemistry and it didn't feel forced. But I liked their platonic friendship in the manga, and it would have been refreshing to see more emphasis on their friendship. That people of opposite genders who are close to each other can also be just friends. And I guess that's also my biggest issue with the show. Apart from that, I like the whole thing. Even the stuff I was skeptical about. For example, the makeup and the costumes. And yes, I give you that. I have seen better cosplays, but it's obvious how much thought went into the costumes. They're very recognizable, which yes, should be a given, but I can still appreciate it. The only thing I don't vibe with are Luffy's and Shanks' shoes, I guess. I don't know what that is. The same goes for the CGI, which was very well done, at least for an untrained eye like mine. The way Luffy stretches looks natural, or at least not out of place. It didn't break the immersion for me. What I also have to commend is the length of the show. They compress the arcs into 1 to 2 episodes tops, of course at the expense of a few characters and scenes, but it never felt rushed or like something was missing. So if the show continues, and the end of the season implies a second season, but at the time of filming this I couldn't find a definite confirmation of a second season, but if it continues, I'm actually optimistic that the show could cover the whole plot.
配信から2週間、とてもいい知らせが届きました。なんと、Netflix が続編の制作を決定しました。稲垣たち実写版麦わらの一味の冒険はまだまだ続きます。
Now on to the cast. I really like the chosen actors, which is also something I didn't expect. But they all did a very good job in portraying their characters. My favorites so far, I have to say, are Luffy and Buggy, which was a surprise even for me. In the manga, I didn't really care about Luffy with his main character energy and all, and I did not like Buggy. Not only because I don't like his character design, but because he's just such a loser, in the beginning at least. My faves in the manga are Zoro and Ace. Oh, and I can't wait to see Ace in the live-action adaptation. But I like the show's darker take on Buggy. He seems a bit more deranged, and I don't know why, but it really appealed to me. Teenage me would have bought posters and shit. And with Luffy, I really liked his energy and his optimism and the constant theme of following your dreams. I know it also was a theme in the manga, but since the arcs are so long, I think it was a bit more watered down and less prevalent than in the show. So yeah, that's my take on the One Piece live action adaptation. I'm excited to see how the journey continues and even more excited to see the characters that are yet to come. What did you think of the show? Did you like it or not? Are there any other anime live adaptations you would recommend? Let me know in the comments. If listening to random people talking about random stuff on the internet appeals to you, leave a like and subscribe. And if you have any topic you would like to hear me ramble about, leave your suggestions in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye bye!